Get out the insurance cards, get out the co-pays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by DrRoto.com.
So let's get to it.
Bring the pain!
What's up, everybody? It's Heat Override, and I'm ready to bring the pain for you and Dr. Roto this week. Ooh, yeah. We're going to have to run it back because apparently we ran it back. The sport books ran it back on us. They got lucky again with another event canceling. Man, let's just get to it. Let's get ready to bring the pain. Ooh, yeah. Man, did that piss me off. You get a 2-week layoff. You have practically all of my DFS lineups go down. So all the money I won 3 weeks ago starting to dwindle away, goes down because of, that late swap. Now it's done. Now we don't get that fight. Now we have the main event of last night, which of course was Blanchfield versus Barber, canceling in Vegas. Minutes prior, literally walking out, announcing the fighters walking out. Can't do it. Macy Barber comes in overweight. Next thing you know, there's a medical issue. And next thing you know, all the DFS lineups, including having either one of those, of course, is shot. I had one that had two because I was looking for it to go to the distance and that there'd be enough action inside the fight that I would have been able to just score out. I actually had 4 wins on that DFS lineup. That DFS lineup returned no money because of it. I mean, it just was the last fight of the fight. Of course, again, must be what we were talking about. These canceled fights recently, the canceled fights throughout the week with this card, and then coming back in. Of course, we're talking about how Goff, and we'll get to him in a minute, of course, and Brahimaj got it together last night, and they fought. Well, fought for about a minute before Brahimaj tapped him, which was crazy because, man, the minute I saw that elbow go up and he had a high guillotine, I was like, oh, that's it. He's done. High choke, done. And, we started out with Medeiros, of course, getting moved out. Then we had Gustafsson, one of the biggest key moments. So I wrote my lineup, and Doc was like, hey, where's the value? Well, the value was taken away from me. It was Gustafsson. I didn't want Oki on there, but I had the extra money to go Oki. I wanted Gustafsson because Gustafsson was going to beat down Giles, and he was going to beat down his other opponent. But unfortunately, that all got thrown out the window. Now we don't even know. Last I heard, Gustafsson is supposed to be fighting at next weekend. But then when I go to the actual fight card, I still see the other guy still fighting the other guy. It's just, there's so much for it, man. I'm just like, whatever. I don't even know. So I already wrote up my UFC 316, Blanchfield versus O'Malley. I already have it all written up. I've already got the numbers recorded. I'm already starting to do the tape. Of course, I know a lot of these fighters already, so that's really cool. We're going to end up probably covering all 5 fights on the main card as long as they stay active and they actually have the fights. I don't see anything going on like this shit that happened this weekend. I mean, literally, just shit all over my DFS day. I had one or the other in 80% of my life. And again, I only played 8 lineups. But 6 of those lineups had one or the other. So, and again, it goes back to DFS. If either one of those, especially in the smaller cards where it's a 5-round event, you can pile up so many points, it's almost absurd to not put them in your captain. So I'm not only left without the captain spot now, but a big fat 0, just like everybody else. And the FanDuel and DraftKings and all the other sites, they can all get the laugh at us. BetMGM, y'all can laugh. But we're going to show you what's up like next week when we run it back on y'all, because that's not going to happen. You got 2 events that have now been marred DFS-wise by a fight cancellation. And I'm sitting here trying to talk it up to Doc and everybody around me about how UFC is unique. Well, here's that weird unique to it, too. This is where it gets really strange and where people get hurt prior. Now, it happens, too. We have a couple of amateur MMA guys that have went up to New York or Ohio, got there, and literally the other fighter tears his ACL in the back while training. So things can happen in this game. It's a fight sport. And honestly, if she wasn't feeling right or there was something medically wrong with Macy Barber, as a fighter, as a fellow fighter, a point fighter I am, that is, I can see that. I can totally respect that. If you're not going to be at 100%, there's no reason for you to get in the ring. You could either hurt yourself worse, or you could try to push yourself and you can actually hurt your opponent, which I guess would still result in a win. But at the same time, you shouldn't put yourself in that situation. You shouldn't put anybody else in that situation. You know what I'm saying? So that's a little bit of heat over knowledge there for you. Yeah. Heat over knowledge. Why don't you hashtag that? Run it back. So, not just crazy. What's crazy is also is my picks just totally went out the window. You know, I was looking for that last fight to put me at 500. I had a rough start to the actual pay-per-view. Of course, I picked Dos Santos, and I stayed with it. On my main picks, I stayed with Dos Santos, but I went and hit Alice Ardeline, and that's because I actually did a whole skit in the subs-only Discord at Dr. Roto on both, and why that there was a chance of knockout for this fight, which I almost thought Alice knocked her out a few times. They were taking some blows. I mean, Dos Santos hit her a couple times too, but no, it was Alice just hitting her. I was like, man, she got to go down, because she does. It makes me look like a hero. But anyway, I said it was going to go the distance. It went the distance, and I said distance with Alice, and I threw that parlay in the subs-only Discord in the MMA chat at Dr. Roto, saying that's what you go with. And then, of course, you can hedge yourself with the Dos Santos distance. And what ended up happening is, of course, we got the dog, we got the distance, and we were able to get a nice parlay hit. Now, that kind of just was like, all right, so that's what I'm saying. Yeah, I picked the wrong fighter, but my method was right. I think Alice got almost 140 significant strikes in that match. It was insane. And I'm looking at the previous fight of both of them, and I said, hey, guys, this is going to be, again, you would have to go to the subs-only Discord to read everything that I said in the videos that I put in there and showed why Alice has this thing. This is why any fighter, any given day, has a chance in the octagon, the ring, or on the mats. No matter what you're fighting in, you have a chance at all times. It depends on you. It depends on your heart. It depends on how far you can go, how far you can push yourself. And that's really what it comes down to. And you just got to get better as a fighter. All right. So, of course, I took Balaji Oki, which, got it done. Bam. Over Michael Aswell. I took Hollowball, although I should probably start taking these favorites a little more, and that's kind of like, I wanted the money on the Hollowball side. I knew Levitt was going to win anyway. Of course, I had a lineup with Levitt, but that lineup with Levitt had Barber. So, yeah. Anyway, Ketlin Vieira, she won. She beat Macy Chisholm, and I thought Macy looked great too. So that was a big war. So, right there, I'm doing pretty good. Of course, I picked Jafel Filho, and, so did Dan. And Nascimento really just held him down, just took him apart. And Phil couldn't really do anything. So that just, again, comes up, that's a loss. Reese picked that one. I really thought Reese could have knocked him out. I don't know how Dusko withstood some of that. And he was just annoying me. He reminded me of that, this was like one of those, mid-high school fights where the one dude, wasn't dialed in all the way, but he could actually win and wins that fight. But, of course, he didn't win that fight. Reese got it to him. And, of course, Dustin Jacoby, only knockout of the night. Yep, called that, too. Had that down on the Heat-tastic picks. We'll get to that. Of course, Goff got trucked out by Brahmaj. So that just right there was like, okay, whatever. But again, and I have my Heat-tastics up for a reason. Because I want to actually, I'm going to explain how the Heat-tastic works. It's not just DFS and it's not just betting. It's both. I'm suggesting a fighter, actually a fight. Now, I do word it as saying, let's say Billy Ray Goff. But I'll read this here. And of course, I put Ludwig Klein, which became the main event of the night. I should have knew. I said it right on the Fight Club of Pain with Dan, and Dan picked Gamrot. So Dan kicked my ass this week on the picks. I didn't even get a win. So many fights got canceled, and it was over. Stop picking underdogs, hoping they're going to win Heat Override. But you know what? That's why sometimes that still works in DFS wise, because some of those, even though Phil Ho didn't win, he scored a lot of points. He scored a lot of points in that fight. So, I had a Phil Nascimento lineup, and I mean, they both were over 40, but 40 wasn't really good. I mean, when you got Jacoby out here getting that knockout for 89, 90 points, or you got, Balaji Oki, he went for almost 90 points DFS-wise. So, again, that's why sometimes it doesn't matter. That's what you have to understand with DFS, UFC, and betting UFC, that, betting UFC is easy. You're betting the method, you're betting the rounds, you're betting the strikes, you're betting the takedowns. Again, I told you about Gamrot 1+. Gamrot took Boy down the whole time, trying to know what to do, right? So, that being said, and this is why, I gave out the DFS lineup of Reese, Jacoby, Klein, Phil Ho, Goff, and Gustafson. And that was totally wiped off the board. I didn't have to worry about any of those fights getting canceled until that fight got canceled with Gustafson. So let's get to it. Let's do the 5 picks because, might as well, since it became 4 picks, since Blanchfield was one of them. I got Dustin Jacoby and Bruno Lopez. I said this is going to be a war. The knockout prop is live. Bam, got that. DFS-wise as well, too. Reese was going to get it. Now, it was really crazy how the odds were actually kind of telling you to play the under. So I mentioned that for a reason. I said negative 70-50. But that means Reese should be in your DFS lineups. Again, he did enough damage and scored enough points for you to win. That's a win as well, too. Billy Ray Goff. Now, this is where I guess you could say it gets a little shady. So, well, not me shady or anything like that. So I said Brahimaj is live for the submission finish, which the second and third was holding it at 1,100, and then the first was a 900 or 800, first and second. The first overall was 1,200. That's what I hit. I hit that one because I decided to play first only, and instead I put the extra money on 1 and 2. I already had the money on the second and third tap with the plus 1,100, so I had that. But I thought Goff was going to win, had that recommended as a knockout. The knockout was really low. So the money actually was on the Brahimaj side. And that's what ended up working out for me. That's what ended up putting back some money back in my wallet, in my bank account. That's what happened, was I was able to play that. So that's what I'm saying is that right there, you could even say that's a win. That's a win. So, and then of course, Oki, it says I said you could entertain the under 2.5 rounds, but he's an excellent play for DFS. Michael Oswald popped into this fight. I'm surprised he didn't get knocked out. Oki was landing bombs on him, but I'll tell you what, Oswald worked hard for that, to lose by decision, and that was fine. So overall, DFS-wise, we were on it. Picks-wise, the ways we were. We can't help that there was only one knockout the whole entire night, but there was a few chokes. So, with that being said, when you flip back at it, again, all of the Fight Club of Pain and the 5-tastic picks, because now the 5-tastic picks go 4-0. Because again, that is why I say that you to read it. So maybe I should put Billy Ray Goff versus, Ramiz Brahimaj, right? Maybe I should do that. Because I'm centralizing the fight, not so much the fighter. So I think that kind of gets it. But the reason why I leave it as the single fighter, like why it was Billy Ray Goff and not both of them, it was just to save face and just to get it right. I write about both fighters always in all of my write-ups. So therefore, you get both sides. You get which actions we're playing. And for all of the actions and the explanations, if that's one of the fights that I'm covering on the Fight Club of Pain with Dan, then you get his explanation, you get full explanation, and you get the live bets done at that time, showing you how the numbers have moved and all through that. I hope that makes a lot of sense to you, because really that is what UFC is. There is numbers, but in the end, it's a fighter versus a fighter, and anything can happen. We say this constantly, and I don't need to keep saying it again, but you're going to hear me say it 1,000 more times as well too, is that's just what happens in fighting. Sometimes you can lose. Sometimes you can dominate. Like I said, like I did last weekend when I went 13-3, right? When I dominated my first match, 13 points to 3 points. And I'm sitting here whacking about a 2-point kick that they didn't play. I don't need to beat someone 15-3. I've already beat them. That's all that matters, right? and we need to move along, and we need to think about that next fight and how that, winning that. At any point, if in these point fighting matches, if points don't go my way or the judges are in bad positions, I could be the better fighter and still lose. And that is what happens in the UFC or any fighting sport, boxing as well too, is that sometimes your eyes, but because your eyes see all of that action, you may not understand or see the other action that somebody else sees. And that's what makes the Fight Club of Pain so unique as well too, is that having the two different formats, Dan liking the underdogs, me trying to like some underdogs, when Dan goes, you should be playing it safe here. Whereas I'm taking the underdogs on the heavy fights, and it just kind of the way it's been working out in the sauce that we've been able to put together for you all. So I wanted to get that all out of the way, is because they had an advantage. The sites have had an advantage recently by canceling that. They got to take all of our money if we rostered any of those fighters from this weekend or the previous weekend 2 weekends ago. I'm not even worried about talking it, right? We already know who it was. I already bitched about it. So let's move along here. So again, another thing I want to say too is that's why they don't allow late swaps on these anymore. A couple weeks ago, when that actual fight was canceled, we could have swapped, but we can't swap anymore. So now that's another thing. That's how the sites have backed it as a whole. It's because they can't really gauge UFC or any combat sports so much. So they have to feel like they have to have an advantage, like a controlling situation. That guy that does 25 in a 35 single lane road because he feels like he's important at that moment. He's controlling everybody, and that he's keeping everybody at 25 miles per hour in that 35 mile per hour zone, when actually he's being a big, well, you know what. So everybody wants to pass him, and then there's other people that disagree with the way that people, and may feel controlled like that. And that is what the sites are doing. They're controlling us by making small contests that have a low percentage of placing, and you can still place with a couple losses with some fighters. You can do the cash ups. My lineups yesterday still cashed. I still had a couple cash. But the thing is I didn't play a lot of cash. I want to play the big ones. I want to go for the 10,000, the 15,000, the 100,000, right? So I'm in the 8s. I'm in the 15s. Now that's gone because I rostered Barber, and I rostered more so. I rostered Blanchfield as well too, because Blanchfield was a little more expensive. So the Barber lineups were kind of my sway. Those are my sway lineups. Those are the lineups that had Alice Ardeline, right? So, that's what I'm saying. When I took a couple of those and I saved that money, and I was able to get Reese, I was able to get Oki, I was able to get the other people to move in there and to get that. And again, you're not going to understand that fight theory unless you are a fighter. The best guys that are giving out the UFC coverage are usually ex-fighters or current fighters. But I always think that if you have to be if you're knee deep in the combat sport right now, right, like I am, then I'm dialed in. And that's what we're trying to do right now. I'm trying to give my hands-on experience while I'm being coached at looking at the fights and trying to break them down for all of you so that we can get to that point and use that to our advantage against the sites. And that's my point. That's their advantage. Small slates, expensive slates, and then they do the other stuff with, of course, the numbers and waiting for weight release numbers and all that stuff. And then at the same time, while that's going on, we have to be able to be a chameleon too. We have to be able to change and evolve with them. And that's what we're going to do. But unfortunately, when fights get canceled like that, especially the last fight, there's nothing you can do. Don't matter how great of experts we are. In the end, the house wins. You hear it all the time. They won. They won this week, DFS-wise, and they won the other ways. Hey, there's a lot of people out there got lucky and avoided some of these fights and just happened to get lucky, and that's really what it is. Kudos. You avoided the fights that got canceled or the fights that were moved or were traps. That's fine. There's always a guy or two that can do it, so that's not a big deal. So that's just really what it is. That's what you get. So again, that's 4-0. Moving me up to 51-10 on that article. So at this point, is it worth me counting it anymore? Yeah, I guess will. But at some point, I'm going to stop counting it because honestly, the Heat-tastics work every single week. The angles work, everything. Even with all the cancellation of fails, the Five-tastic still came through. They always come through, and that's for you at Dr. Roto. You can read that at the site. Use code word doc to join up, right? So let's get to it. My IDP rankings will be out. I'm getting those all finished this week. Maybe if I get them done by Tuesday, I might do a fast walkthrough on Tuesday with them. But I'm getting back into karate tomorrow. We had that easy week off of Memorial Day last week. And now I want to take something too. Last year I got some explanation. People are like, well, why don't the IDP rankings get updated weekly? Because the way I run the IDP at Dr. Roto is that I kind of do a journey with you. I take you on a journey. So that is what the hard hits and cool picks waiver wire article is for your pickups. So the guys that are lower percentage in great positions that score, I'm telling you, I hit every single time. It's practically, even the times I miss, it kind of gives you things. But believe me, I've had some great opportunities. I got people telling me about some toothy guy. And I don't know what's going on out there, but I'm just saying, I'm doing my thing. I'm listening. I'm using my numbers, my models, and I'm watching as much game tape. My game tape is probably better than most people's game tape. Again, I'm immersed into this game. I'm not playing football, but I can tell you that fights have slowed down for me, and because fights have slowed down for me as a fighter, I don't even have to fight at the level of the pace that I used to have to fight at even a year ago. Literally, it's like child's play, right? So that's the same play that all of us experts can have. We have the advantage of all the numbers and everything. So you get your numbers and you put in the work, the tape work, right? That's what I do. And so I don't update the original file. I don't. It goes, it's there, it's for that. You have to walk that journey. The Heat-tastic, the hard hits and cool picks, just like I said, and the Heat-tastic picks of the week. You get that too. And when you get the IDP heats of the week, you get that. You get the special IDP player at the end as well too. And I even throw in a betting bonus that with him. But of course, with a lot of the betting sites not offering tackle props early in the weeks anymore, that's kind of hard to do. So that being said, and that article's usually out about Thursday. So you get of course, the waiver wire on Tuesday and then Thursday. That's how I do it at Dr. Roto. I just don't see a reason why I need to keep updating these. I'm giving you 15 targets for the IDP heats of the week. I think that's enough. I'm pretty sure that most of those players aren't going to be lower owned. And if they are lower owned, that's what you use the hard hits and cool picks article for. You're getting 2 IDP articles a week of players to pick up and an explanation of why to pick them up. That's what we do at Dr. Roto. We go on a journey with you. You walk with us. We get players. If you go into the Subzone Discord and talk to me about a player that you're thinking about picking up, I run the numbers, the models, I look at the things, and then I go yay or nay, or just stay with what you got. So maybe the player you have right now is good enough. In some people they doubt themselves. So don't doubt yourselves. Come to us, ask us. That's what we're here for. That's why we have the right cure for all of your fantasy needs. It's just, we have it covered. We got the prescriptions, people. Yeah, right? So that being said, definitely get ready. UFC 316 will be, and UFC 316 says it's time to whip some sportbooks ass. Yeah, we're not going to get some canceled fights this week. As a matter of fact, we're going to get some finishes this week. We got some people that are making some statements. So you're going to definitely have to tune into the Fight Club of Pain this Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live. Ask your questions. We're going to cover 5 this week instead of the 4. I was pretty proud that we kept it around 47 minutes. That just shows that we're getting way better at this. And it really comes off onto the sport books. If the sport books can get me the numbers faster, then I can prepare the show faster instead of doing so much live, and I can get you through all the numbers that you need and that you want. Again, Five-tastic picks. It's what we do. So we got Blanchfield versus O'Malley. That's got to be a war. This is part 2 of that things. I know what Merab has done. I know about the 11 wins, right? But I also know that Sean O'Malley is very hungry. Sean O'Malley wants to knock him out. And I'm probably going to say that right now, that I'm going to have a Sean O'Malley knockout prop. So just be prepared. There's going to be some kind of Walls I City. I don't know where Dan's going to go. I don't know if he's a Merab fan. I don't mind Merab. He's been on my power rankings over at Dr. Roto and Dr. Roto MSN for months, right? But at the same time, let's get Sean O'Malley back up there. Maybe Sean's going to get up there. We don't know. But right now, another sad thing is you got Juliana Pena versus Kayla Harrison, and Kayla Harrison is a huge huge favorite. You're literally saying the champ. They did this last time, right? With Shevchenko, right? They tried to say that she was the dog, but she wasn't the dog. She's the champ. So right now, the champ has a plus 440. It's a plus 440. You're giving a champ somebody that's been to war? I know, man. This fight is definitely going to take off. This is going to be crazy. It's going to be fun to watch it as a co-main event. But man, I got to say something too. We could not cover a Kevin Holland fight, and we could not cover a burrito banding Kelvin Gastelum fight. We definitely will have some idioms, some craziness going on. Maybe we'll play a drink game. I don't know, people. That's how we're going to do it, man. Make sure you head over to the Dr. Roto YouTubes and Facebook. We are literally doing that. Join, like the page. Let's get it over. We're like rated almost 1,000 people. Yo, if you people start liking that and get over to my YouTube, my Facebook, also Dr. Roto's X, Dr. Roto himself's X, and also my X as well. Follow at Heat Override, at Bring the Pain, at drroto.com. You can find us. You found this podcast. You're listening to it. Let's have some fun. Let's win you some money. Because I will tell you what, we got champions and we got 5-digit winners, 6-digit winners in our DFS every single year for the NFL. So why not just join? Look, we got you. That's how we do it. That's how you bring the pain. Ooh, yeah, let's get to it. UFC 316 says Heat Override coming for that ass. Hold up that cash. You ain't getting nothing from me this week, yeah?
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. Until the next visit, be well and take care.